My biggest piece of advice is don't listen to the ecosystem, listen to the founders. And so what I mean by that is people love to talk and think about building a startup ecosystem and what that means. And
100%.
I'm a believer that the only people, yes, there's all these players, but what's going to build the startup ecosystem is the startups.
Yeah.
And the people building the startups. And so I feel like I spent probably too much time, and I think a lot of people spend too much time, all be in rooms, not a single founder, and we're all talking about building the startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm like,
where's the founders?
And so once I made a shift of I'm only, if the founders like it, I'm doing it.
Right.
And if the founders don't like it or need it or want it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Like that's when it was, it
is customer centricity.
It's starting to work, but there's so many ecosystem players that they're like, well, we got to appeal to the investors or the service providers or these other ecosystem players and the angels. And I'm like, I'm sure I piss all those people off sometimes, more often than not. But as long as I make my founders happy and my founders are getting the help that they need, that's number one in my book.
This episode of Adventure Capital is a little different. In it, I interview Haley Zapolski, an angel investor and startup ecosystem builder here in Nashville. Zapp fell in love with startups after working for one out of college, and also fell in love with Nashville, the city she now calls home. Putting those two passions together, over the last few years, she's worked tirelessly and I would say incredibly effectively to develop the Nashville startup scene, both through her day job at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center and as an independent, rogue, maverick cowgirl. In this episode, she talks about how she's doing that. If you are trying to build the local startup ecosystem in your city, this interview with Zapp will give you some awesome ideas on how to do that. A true queen of LinkedIn, you can find Zapp there to follow along with her journey, insights, and musings. Or you can subscribe to her Beehive newsletter at zapswrap.beehive.com. That's zapswrap.beehive.com. As always, we're required to make it clear that anything we say here should not be interpreted as investment advice, recommendations, or soliciting investments in any company. And now, here's Zapp.
Haley Zapolski, the queen of the Nashville startup scene, aka Zapp.
What an honor.
Welcome to Adventure Capital. Great to have you here.
I'm so stoked to be here.
Thanks for doing this. In-person podcast recording here in our hometown of Nashville, Tennessee.
Let's go.
Firstly, how did you find your way to Nashville? And, why did you settle here? Why did you kind of want to call Nashville your home?
Yeah. So many people ask me why I moved here, and I think all of those people have never lived in a town of a $30,000 or 30,000 person population and realize that you kind of have to move anywhere if you want any job outside of police officer or teacher. So partially
I can see you as a police officer there. Or a teacher. I think you'd have been great in either of those jobs.
I thought about it. So I'm from like Indiana, Iowa, small towns, went to Michigan. After Michigan, there was a really strong culture of like, if you're ambitious, you have to go to New York. So I went to Manhattan, lasted a whopping 6 months. And that small town girl in me was like, I hate Manhattan. It's way too big and scary and mean.
So meet somewhere in the middle.
Yes. And so I was like, well, let me look at these emerging cities. And I did job interviews actually in several. And I really kind of picked Nashville on a whim, but I joke like I picked it on accident, but I feel like I'm staying on purpose because when I spent time in Nashville, I realized Nashville's so exciting. It's the coolest city because I feel like more than anywhere else in the country, Nashville is becoming something new. Mm-hmm. Like New York is really cool in the sense that like everything happens there, but like it's already happened.
Right.
You're not going to move the needle. New York is what it is. Nashville is becoming, what is Nashville going to be in 20 years? We're still writing that story and I get to be a part of writing it. That's really fun and exciting. And I also think that attracts other super interesting builders like you, for example, of you get to create something here. And in other cities, I think it's hard to influence what a city becomes.
Yeah, totally. That's a great point. And you are having a massive impact on the city that Nashville is becoming, especially obviously within your domain, which is startups and the ecosystem of startups. You're kind of leading and building. On that note, you love startups. It's like so obvious. Everything you do is just like you love startup founders, startups.
I love startups.
I do too. How did you come to fall in love with startups?
I think my love of startups I would attribute to it's truly like my autistic special interest at this point. Like I am obsessed with them. I think my one before was rowing. I was super into rowing for a decade in sports, and then rowing ended and startups was like the next thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can do this one forever.
Yeah.
But no, I got this startup bug because my senior year of college, I started working at a startup, and it was so funny looking back. I worked myself to the bone for very little pay because I was like, we're going to build something huge.
What's the startup?
It is called Ripple Match. It's a post Series B startup now. And I would describe myself as being like, maybe like first, there was already a team. I was hire number 8, but I think I was their first like kind of like real hire of someone they didn't already know and wasn't in network. Like I moved to New York and everything for it.
This is why you moved to Manhattan?
Yes. But then I decided after working at Ripple Match doing growth, which was really fun, that I wanted to work with a bunch of startups, not just one startup. And that's how I started working at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. And at the EC, every day I got to talk to dozens and dozens of businesses. And I always gravitated toward the tech startups though, because I think I loved the concept of how big they could become, like how technology can be so global, the grandioseness of it. And then I also think technology is exciting because I'm not really like from money at all. Growing up, like no one really is that rich in Iowa. I joke. I didn't even know what rich people were. Like rich was like going to Disney World for me. And then you get into the world and you're like, you go into cities and there's all these wealthy people. And I think tech startups, I would never do it for the money, but it's one of the few ways in the 21st century that you can really create new wealth. And I'm kind of like a gambler and I like playing the lottery that way.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would never have thought of you as like someone motivated by money, or at least in the short term, like you could be earning way more money by going to work for a big company. Well,
I'll talk about it this way. I've kind of decided I didn't really grow up with money. I currently don't need that much money. Like I live off of, I have an illness called frugality. Like I am very ill with it.
By the way, Sam Altman, I saw an interview with Sam Altman and they asked him like, what are the top 3 attrupes of startup founders? And frugality made it into the list.
I have an illness. Mine is like debilitating. But all that being said is, no, I'm not really at it for the money, but in that regard, like becoming wealthy, a traditional path is so boring to me. It's like, so what? Like I just become kind of rich.
Yeah.
Might as well
swing for the fences.
Yeah, swing for the fences and roll the dice. And I don't think any founder who's at it for the money, it's gonna be worth it or compelling. But I do think like if my option is work every day of my life and like retire comfortably, I'm like, I'm gonna work every day of my life anyways. And what am I, who cares about, I don't want a boat. I don't want a lake house. Like I want exactly what I have now, or I want hundreds of millions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
just to do what I do now. Just to continue investing in startups.
Yeah.
I would just do the exact same thing I do now. I might like travel not on Spirit Airlines.
Yeah. On your own private jet.
I don't think I would ever get a private jet though.
The Spirit of Zap. We can call that private jet.
My boyfriend gives me a hard time because he's like, I'll talk about things that I want to buy. And he's like, you could buy those right now. And I'm like, I would only buy those if I had $100 million.
Well, I like that. I kind of think the same way about WeFunder. Like there was this company called Leo Labs, came out of YC. They're trying to cure cancer in dogs. It was one of my favorite WeFunder stories ever. And he was kind of seen as too early by VCs, lots of science risk ahead of him. And so basically turned to WeFunder and raised, I think, $500,000. And all of the investors in the investor notes are like, I had 3 greyhounds die of cancer. If I can be a part of like, helping to cure canine cancer, like here's my $1,000. So he raised $500,000 on WeFunder, then did another raise, did another $500,000. Then he raised 7 figures from NSF grant funding, and then now VCs are investing as well. But
that's so cool.
Those investors, like, they didn't really, I don't think making a ton of money was their primary motivation. Their primary motivation was let's
solve the problem.
Let's cure canine cancer. But like, if it works, then they will also make a ton of money because that's going to be a big business.
It's a huge problem to solve.
Exactly. So it's like, I feel like that's the same with you, where it's like, you're not doing this right now for financial gain. You could like make a ton more money by stopping what you're doing now and going work for a big tech company like a Google or a Meta. But like, if it all works out, it might actually result in the Spirit of Zapped private jet in 10, 20 years.
No, I really think I would just right now I put the majority of my income into tech startups, which this is not financial advice. I would not recommend anyone else doing that. Don't worry, I put some of it in like things like 401ks or something.
Yeah.
I have an advisor
index
for
fund.
that. I'm just
boring.
Kidding. But I think that even if I had all the money in the world, I would still do that exact same.
Right.
Like that's not really going to change. Anyways.
Yeah.
And so why don't I just I get to live like a billionaire right now. I just do it in a very small and tiny way.
Money is not the end. It's like a byproduct, hopefully, from the work that you're doing. When did you move to Nashville?
6 years ago.
And then what's been the journey over those 6 years? And what would you say you're like building now? Because you're doing like a bunch of different stuff. The Lighthouse is obviously new and really cool, but like, how would you describe like the projects or like the ways in which you're like building the Nashville scene today?
I moved here and I was a coordinator at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. So I got paid $32,000 a year just to run around, and I had no idea what was going on. I'll say that much. And then 2 years after that, I was just like, I want to do more with tech startups. We're not doing it at my day job. I'm just going to start hosting happy hours for founders. And WeFunder was my very first sponsor. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the one up on
you guys were
on the roof of the bank?
The first, no, way before that. We hosted something at East Nashville Beer Works.
Oh, okay.
With Reed.
Yeah.
And literally like 12 founders showed up. And I was so proud.
Yeah.
So that's like where it all started. There's too much to talk about, but fast forward.
So you're basically saying WeFunder gets 100% attribution for everything
I'm just
you've
saying,
built
like,
since then.
WeFunder gets a lot of points in my book because you were an early believer in me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you were the first person to say yes to give me like $300 to buy beer and pizza.
Yes.
And that's compelling.
Why I wanted to do this conversation with you. I am a huge believer in what you're doing, and I like think it's incredibly valuable for like the Nashville startup scene, founders, building this ecosystem of investors. I hope other people that are like looking to develop and build out their startup ecosystems in other maybe similar countries that have the potential to write new chapters in the story of their city, like you are doing in Nashville. I hope they will look at this interview in months and years to come and be like, oh, okay, interesting. Like maybe I could implement those learnings and how I'm building out the startup ecosystem here in Louisville or Tucson or Portland or wherever it might be.
Yeah. Well,
so back to the story.
Let me talk about what I do now.
Happy hours. Yeah.
Well, then I worked at a venture fund here locally, and at the venture fund, I learned a lot, but in a short period of time, but it was like, it wasn't my mission, is what I really realized. And that's when I decided I'm just going to go all in on my mission. And truthfully, I did not have a plan. I just had realized that I was capable, this is a few years ago, of, like I said, frugality is an illness. I can live off of, if I need to, probably like $3,000 a month. And so I kind of had a little part-time thing making $3,000 a month. So what if I spent all my other time just on my mission?
And what is your mission?
Building the Nashville tech startup ecosystem. And so I started.
And when did you like figure out that was your mission, or like come to the realization that that was your mission?
Yeah, I would say October of 2023 was
that
I had like an aha
light bulb
moment.
moment? Yeah, what was that?
I actually really had actually someone was courting me to get involved in what they were doing. That was investing in startups and doing deals, and it was a very good professional opportunity. And I cried about it a lot because it was just the first time that I said no to something, that it was a good opportunity, but I realized this does not align with my mission. This does not align with my values. And it kind of was like, if I'm going to turn down an opportunity that good, like I sure as hell better like go all in on what I do think I care about. And so, and I would credit my wonderful founder boyfriend. That's when I started dating him. And I think I really give him a lot of credit of him being the one to give me the confidence to whatever, just go all in. You're going to figure it out. Like, you don't need to have all the answers now. Like, just start. So that was only a year and a half ago. And then I started with, all right, I'm just going to be reactive to founder needs. Like, I didn't even have a thing. I was like, I'm just going to find the founders that I think are the best. And I'm going to be like, what do you want help with? And I'm going to help with that. So most of it was, I need help raising capital. And so then I would go shop a bunch of deals around. I was throwing, I don't know if I can curse, but I was throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah, go for it.
And was just like sending decks to anyone who would look at them. Quickly learned that didn't work. And then quickly learned, all right, what are the VCs actually looking for? And how can I make the founders
look like that?
Or
even better, be like that.
Exactly. And I'm still learning every day because also the reality is like the market changes every day. So every day I'm looking for that market feedback is how can I make my founders better, stronger, not just that they're attracting the money for that they want to raise, but that they're building the business that warrants raising the money. Like, what does that really look like and feel like?
That's like a really good point because it's almost like customer discovery, right? Well, you just said if you were like a startup, it's like customer discovery. Your customers like the founders. So you ask them, okay, what do you need help with? Okay, raising money. And then your customers, it's almost like a two-sided marketplace, founders and investors. And then you have customers who are investors. And so then it's like, okay, you're kind of asking investors, VCs, what are you looking for? Okay, like power law companies and yeah. And then I guess you're kind of going on this like journey of iteration and exploration towards like building a product that both customers on both sides of the marketplace want.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry, I interrupted your flow.
No. I didn't know what to say to that, but yes.
Yeah, it was just amazing. Mic drop moment. End of podcast. What's next?
And then I realized that a lot of them needed true like startup talent. So then it was like, well, now I'm going to start with talent. And so I started hosting events for engineers and hosting events for product managers and just meeting anyone that was like, hey, I work for a San Francisco startup now, but I live in Nashville. Like, what's cooking here? And I'm still learning.
What do those look like? Are they like also kind of happy hours and like events or?
A lot of it's through events.
Jobs board.
I am not that great at operations and process. I'm really great at like shooting from the hip. But the reality is,
I don't believe that. I'm serious.
No, you're not.
You always
serious.
seem like so organized. To
really?
Maybe
I
like
am
queen.
secretly so organized.
It might also just be relative to me.
I mean, so much of it is I do a lot of, it's so cheesy, but I post on LinkedIn, I run my newsletter, but I do all those things because it's all marketing for my mission.
Mhm.
How can I create buzz about Nashville? How can I get more eyeballs so I can find more founders, so I can find more talent, so I can find more investors? How can I get more people to say, what's going on over here? Like, I need to take a look at this. And then some of that is events, but I think it's like a, I don't know, multi-pronged marketing approach. And I do whatever sounds most fun at the time, you know? Like, I'm not someone that plans a whole year of content or even a month of content and events out at a time. It's like, what's really relevant in this very moment? Let's do that. But all that being said, nowadays what I do is...
That's interesting. I mean, you do have the Zapped app. That is like a very consistent, like weekly, like newsletter. And I'm sure there are other aspects where there is kind of a consistency. Now, obviously, you have Lighthouse as well, which is a consistent, like physical place where founders and investors can congregate. But it's really interesting to hear you say, no, actually, a lot of this is also like pretty ad hoc. And it's like, okay, what's like the mood of the moment, and like where do we think an opportunity is like this month, and let's do that.
Yeah, I try to be reactive to needs. And even like it's cyclical. Like deals are really hot right now because people are either getting their deal done if they're raising venture for the season.
It's a seasonality thing.
Yes, or not. This summer, I'm like, ooh, what should I do? Oh, I'm going to host a bunch of founder retreats this summer. I'm going to get a bunch of founders. We're going to go do a little Airbnb staycation and talk about our businesses and our feelings, like, because it's the next season. But did I do that last summer? No, it's just what I think would be fun this summer. And I think some people need some love and attention. So it depends. But what I really do at the core is find the best founders in Nashville. And like I said, try to be reactive to their needs. And so those fall under a couple different buckets. A big one that people love to talk about is capital, because that's sometimes one of the most challenging. But so much of it is like coaching them on capital, talking through the narrative, talking through the deck, and then shopping that deal out to my network. But my real value is I'm calling those investors that are looking at that deal and trying to get that like back channel intel. Because raising money, it's a black box. The investors just go, call us later. Good luck. We love it. Make more money and then call us. And if you need money right now, then I'm calling them and being like, okay, I know you're not going to tell the founder the real scoop, but you need to tell me the real scoop. And I use it, I ask it from a perspective of I'm trying to learn, but also, but that feedback can be really critical. And so I just had a great conversation last week of founder pitched one of the investors that I really respect. That investor goes, everything was great, but the way that he talked about his last startup made me think like something was weird or went wrong. And it made me, and then that's great feedback. People are not trusting you because they don't know what happened with your last startup.
Right.
You need to dig in there, you know, like,
and that's like so subtle and so nuanced, and you need an investor to tell you that to really actually get that.
Get it.
Otherwise you might just continue to do that.
The second piece is talent. So helping people build the right team. But that's also so ad hoc. I've helped people find co-founder matches. I've helped people hire engineers, chiefs of staff, product managers, just assistants. It's truly all over the map. But I'm typically only hiring for the CEO or CTO. And it's almost like a vibe hire. It's not a traditional recruiting process. It's like this team is so early and small that they're hiring completely based on vibes. And like, does this person really want to do this? And I tap a lot of my network in terms of helping non-technical founders actually understand how to work with technical partners. And like having the right technical partner, having technical advisor, having like someone freaking mediate sometimes the challenges between like a non-technical CEO and a CTO. So talent is another big bucket. I try and help them get customers. I'm actually like randomly it depends. Sometimes I'm really good at that. Sometimes I'm not so good, and depends on who they're going after. But if they can sell to someone in Nashville, I will not like go knock on that person's door and be like, talk to this startup.
So capital, talent, customers.
Yeah. But then the biggest one that people don't see, and it's really hard to share about online per se, is I really think a lot of the founders call me when there's problems
Mm.
that I don't even have the answer to those problems typically, but I'm really good at triaging to the person who does.
Mm.
Typically, the best advice for a founder is another founder who's been through it recently.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like,
The best like intros I make for founders that are launching on WeFunder is like, here's another founder who looks like you, similar
Totally.
industry, similar stage. They did WeFunder, they were successful. Talk to them, and like that is by far like better
best
advice than I
one,
would
yeah.
ever give them, and also objective advice. I'm biased. I work for WeFunder.
so I'm lucky to be able to be pretty vulnerable with some of my founders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll know some things that have happened in their business. So, for example, before this, I had a founder who just got competing term sheets. Great problem to have, but it's like, what the hell do you do?
Right.
Who called me being like, what do? I go, I don't know. I've never had to decide between a competing term sheet. Let's call someone who has and who has multiple times and like knows other people who has and understands the nuances of this decision and how you should be really thinking about it and how it could affect you down the line. And I'm so glad that I could just introduce them to the right person at the right time and really the person I introduced to, I know super well and I've diligence that like they really know this problem.
Right.
Like there's just so many vultures in the startup space that I think
And not even vultures, just like people even with good intentions, just
Yeah.
like aren't qualified to give advice. I
Yeah.
see that's one thing I've thought about a lot over the last couple of years. Like you have so many people giving advice and they mean well, and oftentimes they're really smart and successful people, but their situation is like slightly different to your situation. And so their advice actually doesn't really apply. And like they might give the advice like you should do this. And it's like, well, my situation is slightly different. So actually that advice would be bad advice if I followed it.
Yeah. No, it's tough. So solving problems. And then I get to invest in them too. So my only ask is that if I help them get capital, that I get allocation to invest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been able right now, I've raised 8.6 million for Nashville startups. So they've raised a lot more. But in terms of like people I introduced them that they took the
That's
money
like
from.
directly from introductions you made.
Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
only count directly from my introductions.
Yeah.
I'm going to totally hit 20 million this year.
That's amazing.
I'm getting close to it. I feel it.
Yeah.
And then I've been able to invest into 18 Nashville startups. But I'm actually switching my model a little bit now. I previously would help them raise the money and then I was the check at the end. I just did my first deal where I was the first check into the round. And then I'm trying to help them actively like put it all together, which is fun.
And then will you earn a carried interest on that, like as a syndicate lead?
Oh, in that one, I'm not doing an SPV. Some of the startups I do an SPV, but some of them I don't. My answer is it depends.
So actually on the subject of carried interest, I have two follow-up questions on what you just said. One is on your business model and second is on like, what is a startup? And like, I get a little bit frustrated sometimes by like the dominance of like the kind of power law, venture-backed power
Totally.
and like no other startups are worthy. So just on the first one, like, yeah, what is the business model? I mean, in the long term, hopefully those 18 investments will be power law like winners, but that's like years and years down the line. So how does that? I mean, you don't have that many bills to pay given your disease of frugality, but
I joke all the time. I'm so good at helping people build their business, and I suck at building my own business.
Do you think that is why it's like you don't see, or I don't see that many Zapps throughout? I've worked in like, well, not directly lived in, but I've like seen peripherally startup ecosystems throughout the country. And like, I feel like what you're doing is kind of special. Not to say it's unique. There are other Zapps in other cities, but like, I do wonder if like the combination of ability to do what you're doing and like understanding of like how startups work and how VCs work and like the journey, you've seen kind of both sides, and you worked for an ecosystem kind of builder at Nashville EC, and then you've worked for a startup, you've worked for a VC, now you're kind of doing angel investing. You've seen like all the different sides. So you kind of have those different perspectives and you have that ability, but also you seem to like be okay to not make that much money in the short term. And I wonder if that's like a sticking point sometimes where like most people that have the skill set and ability, expertise that you have kind of want to be making a ton more money. And then it's just like, they kind of struggle to do that. So they go and work for a VC where they can make more money, but then they're just like focused on maximizing returns for their VC versus building the startup ecosystem in their city.
I would say the way I go about it is very atypical. And I would say when I started, no one took me seriously because I didn't do it to make money. But now that it's starting to work and I don't make money from what I do, they're like super confused.
Yeah.
And most people are like, how does Zapped make money? She seems to have it given she
What's her
does
angle?
she does all these investments.
Yeah.
And
How
so
is she screwing me somehow?
I know the people think there's like an angle and it makes me laugh. I'm like, my angle is I might ask you to join the Lighthouse for $100 a month, but I'm going to be like nervous about it.
Yeah.
Like, like I literally have had people be like, how do I like pay you? And I'm like, I guess you could pay me $100. But no, so yeah, when I help founders raise capital and when I dig in, I expect nothing. I don't even want anything. I really just want the allocation. And I do expect like a level of excellence and a level of communication with me. And so I do have expectations, but they're not monetary, but I expect you to put your all in. I'm never going to I joke with my startups, none of them are allowed to quit. They all have to keep going. That's
the payment.
I will keep them alive.
I'll do 2 decades.
I'll do anything to keep them alive. I make a decent amount of the majority of my income through recruiting and hiring. A lot of people don't know that because I don't advertise it, and it's not like I'm out there hunting for customers, and I do it very informally. Most of my recruiting and hiring, it's way below the market rate for a recruiting fee, and it's way more vibes based. And it's weird because not to make it even more confusing, I do a lot of recruiting and hiring for free still, but I have to do some of it to make money. And so I'm just really good at it. But I'm so blessed that I get to spend 5 hours of my week working to make money, to spend 60 hours of my week spending the money. But I do think that 60 hours of me putting so much energy in is what allows me. The universe has like gifted me.
Totally. That gives you the network and the trust and the relationships that then allows you to be very good at recruiting and
I will say,
hiring.
like when I'm having a bad day, like if I'm feeling down that day, the voice in my head is like, does feel like I'm not making enough money or that I'm not getting what I deserve, I guess. But so it's not like that voice isn't there because I'm aware of like, I guess I leave a lot of money on the table, but I just have this crazy belief that if I just focus I don't want to take value out of the system. And if I focus all my energy into putting value in, like I will be rewarded and like everyone will be better and my needs are always taken care of. And it's kind of funny because when founders do pay me to hire for them or something, almost always I give them back the money in the sense that I invested them. So like, like as soon as I get, like I got a surprise, I'll tell you, I got a surprise 16 grand because I made a hire for someone that I wasn't really expecting. I'm like, woohoo, surprise 16 grand. What am I going to do? Put it into 2 more startups. And
yeah, I love this. I mean,
I guess I gotta remember to pay my taxes. I do struggle when my tax bill comes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
IRS, if you're listening.
No, I pay it. Don't worry. But I'm
fine.
like, why do I have to pay taxes? I don't even keep any of this money for myself. Like, stop making me.
I saw this. I think it was like The Men Who Built America or something. It was like a TV show, and they profiled like Henry Ford and J.P. Morgan, and it was Carnegie, right? The steel magnate in Pittsburgh. And on this show, they were kind of talking about how he built this like huge steel mill in Pittsburgh. And it was like, he would build the steel mill, and then he would like take all the money, and then he would invest it in building a bigger steel mill, and then he would like take all the
That's
money
how
and
startups
invest it in
are.
a bigger steel. And it's like that's what you're doing. It's
I'm
like get a 60K referral fee, invest it in more startups. It's just like to your point.
And that's
earlier,
how a startup
it's like
should
swinging
be.
through the fences. Right.
I'm only going
Risk
to
on.
invest in founders if a founder's like, oh, trying to take money out of their business. I'm like,
Yeah.
they clearly don't believe.
Right.
If you really think you're building something worth $100 million, you're not nickel and diming over, a 20K salary difference
Right.
for yourself.
Yeah.
You're going, well, would I rather pay myself 20K more a year, or would I rather hire, I don't know, a UX designer in Brazil for 20K a year because that's going to push my business forward? You would pick that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So I think because I live out that like value system and ethos, I tend to attract founders who live that out. But my financial plan, this is a joke, disclaimer, is my boyfriend is going to give me $50 million.
Sweet.
He is building a startup. I do consider my biggest investment is what his startup is doing. I'm not going to put him on the spot and talk about what he's building, but
No pressure, Mike, but
No,
the future of the Nashville startup ecosystem rests on your $50 million philanthropy.
I'm just kidding.
But seriously. though.
No, but like I have a financial advisor and they say I'm good. I'm chilling. I just do what they tell me to do. But I really do joke that I need $50 million from my boyfriend and I'm counting on him. He will give it to me. I feel confident.
Me too, Mike. I'm confident in you. I'm confident you'll do the right thing, Mike. Going back to what you just said, $100 million outcome. The second point I mentioned earlier, we're like 3 questions through the list of 12. But
Whatever.
this is good. Meandering is more fun. So
Should we talk about WeFunder or something?
no, what you're doing is much more interesting. But yeah, so when you say startups, like, do you mean like power law, like hockey sticking, like venture backable startups, like, or do you kind of, are you like sometimes frustrated like me that there's like, the kind of VC kind of lens aperture is like so narrow, and there are lots of other good companies and founders, and we should be like coming up with alternative investment structures to fund them because they're worthy as well. But you seem to be focused more narrowly on venture-backed startups or backable.
Well, if you want for me to get into the nuance, I am a both in the sense that I have some investments that are raising coastal venture to the moon. We're trying to build billion-dollar or bust businesses. That is some of my portfolio. Yes. But because of the nature of where the Nashville startup ecosystem is at, and what is really suited to win here, I also have a significant portfolio of founders that are like, we are building a $100 to $200 million business, and we are looking for investors who can underwrite that type of return profile. And so it depends. I am interested in both of those. And given that I'm just an angel investor, like I don't have anyone else to report to make that money back per se. And if I had all the money in the world to invest in more things, I would still invest in both of those, but I would actually do even less sexy investments in Nashville. So I'd be interested in investing in brick and mortar stuff, just in things that I thought would provide value to Nashville, even if it didn't have the $1 billion return profile. Like I'm interested in like things that are going to move the needle for Nashville. But right now my expertise and my specialty is tech startups that usually the goal is at least to be like $100 million, which is an amazing outcome, but not always $1 billion. If you're building a $10 million business, that's not really where I'm a winner. But one day when I have $50 million, I would be more interested in those businesses from almost like a capitalist level of philanthropy.
Right. We're running out of time, which is
No.
sad because it's been such a fun conversation. But I mean, you've kind of touched on a lot of the different ways in which you're adding value for founders, capital, talent, customers, helping them solve problems. I think there was a fifth one that I'm forgetting. But so you've already given a bunch of advice, but the main aim I had for this podcast was like, if people are trying to emulate you and like build what you're doing in other cities throughout the country, like what can they learn from how you're doing it here? Because I think you're doing it really well here.
Thank you.
So what do you have any other kind of advice, or maybe things that haven't worked well here, or like, you know, advice on how they can basically replicate what's cooking in Nashville?
Yeah. My biggest piece of advice is don't listen to the ecosystem, listen to the founders. And so what I mean by that is people love to talk and think about building a startup ecosystem and what that means. And
100%.
I'm a believer that the only people, yes, there's all these players, but what's going to build the startup ecosystem is the startups.
Yeah.
And the people building the startups. And so I feel like I spent probably too much time, and I think a lot of people spend too much time, all be in rooms, not a single founder, and we're all
100%.
talking about building the startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm like,
where's the founders?
and so once I made
Yeah.
a shift of I'm only, if the founders like it, I'm doing it.
Right.
And if the founders don't like it or need it or want it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Like that's when it was,
it is customer centricity.
It's starting to work, but there's so many ecosystem players that they're like, well, we got to appeal to the investors or the service providers or these other ecosystem players and the angels. And I'm like, I'm sure I piss all those people off sometimes, more often than not. But as long as I make my founders happy and my founders are getting the help that they need, that's number one in my book. And I think a lot of ecosystem builders like need to go ask more founders, like, what do they need? What do they want? What's going to move the needle? And I also think like so many ecosystems try to be very prescriptive. And my style of shooting from the hip comes from realizing like being reactionary has served me well as an ecosystem builder. So instead of saying, just to give an example, like, all right, I'm going to make this 12-week curriculum and everyone's going to show up and we're going to teach everyone the same thing. Like that's not, I think that can be helpful, but I'm a little bit more like, okay, what's do you need?
For you?
Yeah. What's useful for you right now? Like what's the thing that's going to unlock your business the most today? And just being able to react to that faster and faster with more experience has been the other piece for me.
Any other advice?
I think, I mean, the third is a bit of an obvious one coming from me, but like building a personal brand for me has been everything, like posting on the internet. And it's not something I think about a lot. I don't post expert content. I post authentic content. I post what's going on that day. I post about my mission. I post the things that are happening. And building a personal brand has allowed people to see what I'm doing, and join in the mission and like follow along. And it's just opened up so many doors for me in my career. I can't imagine doing it without having, as cheesy as it is, this LinkedIn content. It's built my mission, and I'm so grateful for it. And I think more people should, if they want to build an ecosystem, like putting themselves out there, I think can be really helpful.
Love that. We're at time. I wish we could do it for another hour. We only got through like about a quarter of the questions.
We can do it again. I'm just kidding.
Let's do it.
Johnny, you're the best. I'm so glad WeFunder is here in Nashville because, I just think it's a platform that's really cool, and a lot of people discount like how investing has already changed in the past few years and how it's going to change even more in the next decade to come, and letting other people like touch and feel and invest and play with startups is an important part of building the ecosystem.
I think so. I think it's like, it seems pretty anachronistic that only rich people can invest in startups they love, and consumer-facing companies, community-oriented companies, like, why wouldn't you let your customers invest?
Yeah.
Then they'll love you even more. And that's the future we're trying to build is a world where, yeah, every customer community, B2C certainly, community-oriented companies, like it's the default expectation that you let your customers invest.
Yeah.
And we think that will build a more kind of healthy, like, you know, democratic, like, you know, decentralized, like people-focused, like Nashville startup ecosystem. So I think our goals are pretty aligned. But yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. Thanks for everything you're doing. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Johnny.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Zap. If you know anyone working to develop their local startup ecosystem, please do share it with them. I expect that if they listen to Zap's insights here, it will help them in what they're doing. You can easily find Zap on LinkedIn. She dominates it. And from there, you can also check out her Beehive newsletter. If you're working to build out your local startup ecosystem and you want to chat with someone on the WeFunder team about how we can help founders in your region raise capital and build community around their startup or small business, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can find me on LinkedIn, where I dominate a lot less than Zap, or you can shoot me an email at johnny@wefunder.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.